Not every human being moves through life in the same way. Some move by force, others by perception, others by endurance, others by the ability to change without warning. And there are those who seem to carry something older within them, something that does not come from explanation, something that does not wait for language. Because long before human beings learned to describe themselves, something was already moving, not as thought, not as identity, but as pattern, as impulse, as silent orientation. And perhaps that is why certain forms repeat, not as ideas, but as behaviors, recognizable, persistent, difficult to fully explain, because they do not begin in reasoning, they appear before it. Modern individuals often believe they understand themselves because they can describe themselves, but description is not depth. A label is not structure. An explanation is not origin. There are aspects of human behavior that cannot be understood through concepts alone. They can only be recognized through repetition, through recurrence, through the way a person enters a room, responds under pressure, moves when something is at stake. Some people scan the environment before anyone else notices something changed. Others impose direction without needing to speak much. Others wait, observe, delay response until something beneath the surface becomes clear. These are not random traits. They are consistent patterns, and patterns rarely begin at the moment we become aware of them. Across different cultures and time periods, people attempted to name these patterns, not to mystify them, but to recognize them, to give form to something that was already being observed, because certain modes of behavior appear again and again, independent of language, independent of era, independent of explanation. Some people adapt by shedding what no longer works, quietly, without announcement. They do not resist change. They move through it. Others detect transitions early, before anything becomes visible, before others accept that something has ended. They respond to shifts that are not yet obvious. Others see what is not immediately presented. They distrust the surface. They read pauses, absences, inconsistencies, and others begin before they are ready. Move without full certainty. Test limits. Learn through contact, through friction, through exposure. None of these behaviors are learned instantly, and none of them are entirely personal. They feel personal, but they operate with a consistency that suggests something deeper, something structured, something older than the narrative we build about ourselves. At some point, these patterns become labeled, organized, interpreted, given meaning, and once that happens, something shifts. The pattern becomes identity. The behavior becomes personality, and what was once fluid begins to solidify. I am this kind of person. I don't operate like that. This is just how I am. And with that, possibility narrows. Not because the underlying pattern disappears, but because it becomes fixed, defined too early, repeated too often, until it feels permanent. But the original pattern was never rigid. It was adaptive, contextual, responsive, and once identity locks onto it, flexibility begins to decline. This is where structure becomes efficient, because systems do not need to create behavior from nothing. They only need to align with what already exists, to amplify certain patterns, to reward some, to discourage others, to make specific ways of operating feel more acceptable, more stable, more realistic. Individual variation appears to shrink, not because people became identical, but because certain patterns were continuously reinforced, and others gradually disappeared from expression. Not eliminated, just unused, unpracticed, unseen. The system does not need to erase what is natural. It only needs to redirect it. What most people experience as personality is often just a narrow slice of a much wider range, a range that includes the ability to adapt when necessary, to detect change early, to observe beyond the obvious, to begin without certainty, to endure difficulty, to confront what is uncomfortable, to withdraw when needed, to act with precision instead of speed. These are not separate identities. They are available modes, but most of them remain inactive, not because they are absent, but because they were never required, or never reinforced, or discouraged early enough to stop appearing. The result is subtle. The person begins to believe they are limited to a specific way of being, a fixed structure, a stable personality, a predictable response pattern. But under pressure, something else often appears, a response that does not match the usual identity, a behavior that feels unfamiliar, but strangely effective, a mode of action that was not consciously developed. It was already there, and used, unclaimed, because what exists beneath identity does not disappear. It waits. To notice this requires a specific kind of attention, not toward the story you tell about yourself, but toward the pattern that repeats. Regardless of the story, it requires observing what emerges under pressure, what appears without preparation, what operates before explanation begins. Because the first movement is rarely constructed, it is revealed, and most people override it too quickly, replace it, correct it, align it with what feels acceptable, before understanding what it was. So the question is no longer, who are you? But what moves first? Before the explanation, before the justification, before the version of yourself that you learned to present. Because something always moves first. Something not fully shaped by language, not fully controlled by identity, not entirely visible, and yet consistently present. And once that becomes visible, a different kind of awareness begins, not based on defining yourself, but on recognizing what was already operating before you named it, before you explained it, before you believed it was entirely yours. And from that point on, you are no longer observing your thoughts alone. You are observing what moves before them,